Hello everybody. So here it is, the second part of chapter 20 of A Look in the Dark. And this chapter is called Network. You probably remember the raids had taken place, there's been arrests, but poor Theo has been shot and killed. Sergeant Hutchins has been injured in the hand. But overall things are taking place that lead to the investigation proving to make trouble for those involved in wildlife crime. Being accustomed to violent death and not knowing Theodore Adrios personally, both Inspector Hutchins and Sergeant Bennet had been well pleased with the arrests. Of course they deeply regretted the death of the Greek man and the injuries of the other policemen, but over the country there had been an amazingly high success rate in sudden raids. Due to the lateness of the day, a number of people had been apprehended at their place of employment, and some of the element of surprise had been lost after the first hour, as the media were very quick to pick up that something big was happening. Of course, Inspector Hutchins had been moved by the local policeman who had shed a few tears about Theo, and he'd also seen the television pictures of the flowers piling up outside the cafe coming from a Theo-loving public. The interview with the arrested John Fuller, alias Major Stanhurst, had been a real pleasure for Hutchins. The criminal had handed himself to them on a plate. Wildlife crime would be punished, but cold-blooded murder of a respectable and uninvolved person, along with the attempted murder of at least 3 police officers, all that in front of witnesses, was a dream for the inspector. Bennet's injury had not been serious, but the shot was intended to kill. However, despite hospital advice, Bennet had returned to the police headquarters after getting treatment to his hand. He joined Hutchins in the interview room, but he left the questions to the chief inspector. Hutchins met the arrogant silence of Stanhurst with a side Bennet had never seen before. The solicitor kept raising stupid objections, and he even tried to allege that there had been police brutality. Hutchins, even though the interview was being recorded, told the lawyer to stop being such an imbecilic, time-wasting legal disgrace. Then he turned on Stanhurst like a lion. "Let me tell you, Fuller, if you had killed Sergeant Bennet, they wouldn't let me in here, because if they had, I would certainly have shown you a level of police brutality rarely seen and which I have never practiced. The only uncalled for violence has been yours, and we have you for the cold-blooded murder of a completely innocent man. Attempted murder of police officers, not to mention all this wildlife crime. This time we have you." The inspector replaced his spectacles and moved round to Stanhurst's side of the table. His solicitor looked alarmed, but he didn't speak. "This time you have had it." Hutchins moved his head right up to the side of Stanhurst's face. "Think you're like King William of Normandy, do you? Well, I've got news for you. You're nothing but a sewer rat. No, that's an insult to the rats. You're not even a clever animal. 4 amateurs busted you, blew you apart, and when the raid occurred you panicked like a petty criminal on his first job. You're going to be away for a long time. In fact, you'll probably die inside, and that'll be the first time you've ever done the human race a favour. William the Conqueror had been like you, 1066 would never have happened. He was cruel and clever. You, Fuller, you're certainly a cruel person, but clever you most certainly are not." The raids around the world and the follow-up operations went on for a number of weeks and were often highlighted in news reports and newspaper headlines. The New York Times even had a full report about the Ace Alliance and the way they'd set up the whole operation in motion. Le Monde reported daily on the events and also added fuel to the mystery of the Ace Alliance. People in many nations were inspired by the fact that 4 unknown ordinary people had undermined the trade in animals and birds. In fact, public disgust at the way animals had been treated led to an increased awareness of the evils of the trade in creatures. People from animal rights protesters right through to men who actually worked in slaughterhouses were sickened by the lack of regard for beautiful creatures, and even more so when it was related to endangered species. The British Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher found that not only were the Eighth Alliance a topic of conversation with her husband, but that she and the radical left-wing MP David Brenton found themselves in agreement when the latter raised the question about the matter in Prime Minister's Question Time, a stunning parliamentary moment for them both. She would have been very surprised had she known that on the same day, in an isolated cottage near Loch Esk and the Blue Stack Mountains in County Donegal, Ireland, Sean McGinley, fugitive IRA man, was reading with delight the account in the Irish Times of the 173 arrests in Ireland. Aye, and they're very best to you, Danny and Carol Green, he said out loud to the empty room as he stirred his tea. And Ireland's all the better for yous, he proclaimed as he looked out of the window at the beautiful, rugged mountains. In Strabane Police Barracks, a certain Michael O'Connor might not have been so keen to be singing Republican songs defiantly had he known how he came to be in the cell he found himself in. 10 days after Stanhurst's arrest had started, the wave of raids around the earth, Hutchins and Bennet were examining a few items that an officer from the Wildlife Crime Unit had passed to them. They were items that had been given to the unit by Hutchins earlier, photographs and a notebook. Bennet held up one of the photos taken with a telephoto lens and an Olympus camera that had been found in the storeroom in Theo's cafe. Hutchins had asked to see them again, and he was watching Bennet's reaction to them. The younger police officer had missed seeing them on the day of the raid because he was at the hospital. Turning the photo of Stanhurst and a couple in their mid-30s over and seeing them getting out of the Major's blue BMW, Bennet noticed that time and date along with duration of stay had been written neatly on the back. So was Theo, the Greek cafe owner, part of the Ace Alliance, sir? I'm not sure about that, Bennet, but they're certainly not holiday snaps, are they? No, sir. These were taken with a desire to identify them. Do we know who they are? Oh, yes. The Wildlife Crime and the RESPB picked them up. He's a turf accountant in Cambridge, and his wife runs a restaurant in Newmarket. Although neither of them have a criminal record, it's become clear that they were running a business dealing in birds' eggs. They've also admitted to the fact that Stanhurst was encouraging them to widen the scope of their business. She had been working with the Geographic Society for Global Understanding. Painter is their name. Everyone in these pictures, including Stanhurst and his bimbo, have been implicated in some way or another. If Theo Adrios was not part of the Ace Alliance, he was certainly doing some investigating of his own. Tell me this, Bennet, what do you think of this letter? The inspector passed the younger man a letter. The sergeant examined the front of the envelope in the same neat writing as was on the photographs. The words Sue Parry were placed exactly in the centre of the envelope. An address did not follow the name. Bennet slid the letter out of its hiding place and read silently as follows. Dear Sue, you have been a good friend to me. I have no wife, no children, and nobody really close. I trust you as a real friend should trust. I tell you my situation. It is a lung cancer. When I come here from Cyprus, Sue, I give up the smoking. Not one pay all that tax. So I open the cafe, and everyone else smokes, and they give me the cancer, I think. I see the doctors at Brompton again on September the 12th, but think, not able to operate. I think I not live too long, perhaps. Radium treatment might help a bit. I make will. I have some money, few £1,000s, and the property around the cafe. As one become empty, I buy it. Own a few now. Work hard, have money, have fun, make money. I enjoy good life here. My brother, he in the prison, not honest and only squander whatever I give him. So, Sue, it will all be yours. I like to give a nice girl a good start in her life. It's in my will, Sue. I tell my brother and he say, okay. He know I earn it, my right to give it to you. He promised never make trouble. He doesn't know I sick. I give this letter your father. When you get you not be sad, come see me sometime, but you stay happy. I have good life here and not unhappy. Life only lasts as long as it lasts. My will is at my solicitors. They in Hounslow. Name Smart, Hasbull and McWilliams. I do this, Sue, because you decent girl, good friend, and think nobody better to leave it to. Love from your friend Theo. P.S. Hey, you tell Danny and Carol I have more for them. Tell them, smash him soon. Kind of ironic, sir, that Theodore Idrius was going to die anyway. It's a bit of a relief, really. Strange. Wish I could thank him, though. Yes, well, I think we thanked him when we arrested Stanhurst. Tell me this, though, Sergeant Bennet. Who's Sue Parry? Dunno, sir, means nothing to me. The solicitors were told that she would contact them. Our Greek friend did contact them, and they have a copy of his will, but of course he was expecting to live long enough to get this letter to Sue by means of her father. The inspector took the letter back from the sergeant and just summarised what they knew. Sue Parry is, by the sounds of it, a pretty decent young lady. What do you think about Danny and Carol? I think maybe the tell them smash him soon P.S. of this letter is referring to Stanhurst. I think the more that Theodore had for Danny and Carol was the photos and any other information that our friend had gleaned from watching and waiting. I agree with you, Sergeant. I think Sue Parry is our key to finding out who the assailants are. Inspector Royston Hutchins removed his glasses, placed them on the desk on top of Theo's letter and rose from his chair. We have friendly Theo, honest Sue, and they may be two of the four aces. One thing is sure, if they're not in the assailants, they know who they are. Well, we can think about that, Bennet. We've two important public duties to perform first, though. He looked at the younger man with a concerned look. I have to go to the prison authorities and see if I can persuade the complex legal system to let Theodore's only relative we know of out of prison for his funeral. Can I say that the detective who Theodore saved would like to see this man allowed out for the funeral? He's not a high-risk criminal or anything. Yes, sir, I'd like that. I'd like him to be at his brother's funeral. Good. While I set that in motion, I'd like you to take WPC Jartsner Varden with you and go and see that poor old soul Rita. See if you and Jartser can help her recall anything else we might need to know. But even more important, see if she can help us find Sue Parry. Explain to Jartser on the way and give her room to chat to Rita. Hutchins smiled at his assistant. Jartser is very good with people. She will make a good detective one day. Hutchins made no secret that the young policewoman was his favourite among the newer uniformed officers. Bennet also liked her. She was kind, firm and helpful. Her Indian culture had been useful in more than one investigation. It was also true that when Jartsner Varden walked into the police canteen, it was as if the sunshine had come out from behind the clouds. She had that rare mix of qualities: beauty, modesty, charm, wit, and concern for others. Also, though she deeply respected the higher rank of others, she wasn't afraid of them. In the car on the way to Rita's home, Bennet informed the younger female officer of the purpose of their visit. He told her how shocked Rita had been as a personal friend of Theodore's and as a witness to his murder. He also explained the contents of the letter and that there was a need to find Sue Parry and see that she collected her inheritance. He didn't mention the assailants once, but the young uniformed police officer asked if Bennet thought Sue Parry could be part of the assailants. Now, why would you think that? Bennet asked as he turned into Aristotle's Road just off Clapham High Street. Jartsner smiled. Well, sir, if you and Inspector Hutchins are involving yourselves in finding this young lady rather than leaving it to a constable or the civil authorities, I think there must be a bit more to it than just being publicly spirited. You want to watch that curiosity of yours. If you don't watch it, you'll end up out of uniform and living the high life as a detective. Bennet glanced at her and saw that huge smile broaden even further. He found a suitable parking spot, and he, along with the younger and beautiful brown policewoman, was soon being led into Rita's parlour, as she called it. Welcome cup of tea was served, with iced cakes, and it was Jartsner Varden who started the conversation properly. Well, Rita, how are you feeling now? This was a terrible shock for you, dear. I'm okay, love, thanks. It was a shock, but life has to go on, don't it? Poor old Theo, though I miss him. I hope that swine never gets out. So do we, Rita. We need your help, though. I think I've told you all I know. In my statement, I mean. Johnson smiled gently. Yes, and your statement has been very helpful to us. We need help with something else, though. At Theo's cafe, we found a letter addressed to a girl called Sue Parry. We want her to get it, but we don't know who she is. Oh, bless you, dear, that'll be Sue. You know her? Well, she worked for him. That Stanhurst geezer. She used to come in the cafe at lunchtime, and one day she came in crying her eyes out, poor kid. Johnson asked very gently, what had upset her? Him. He'd sacked her, hadn't he? It's a dreadful thing. Poor girl. Well, he'd accused her of stealing. That's a joke coming from him, murderous animal. How long ago was that? A few months ago. She was in an awful state. Theo was fuming, said he ought to go in there and sort him out with his meat cleaver. Well, Theo and me got her calmed down. She said she couldn't understand it. She never stole nothing. She said that. Theo was sure she was telling the truth. Well, I never knew her well enough then to be certain. I mean, these young'uns are a bit wild compared with my day. But Theo was very kind to her, though. He liked her, he did. And she seemed a nice kid to me. Theo was so kind to people. Rita wiped away a tear. Jotzner took hold of her hand. Theo was such a good soul, you know. It's dreadful that Stanhurst is going to be kept by the taxpayer and that lovely Greek man is no more. The room was silent for a moment, and then Jotzner broke the silence as she poured another cup of tea from the flowery china teapot. Thanks, love. Rita had her control back again, and she squeezed the lovely girl's hand as she thanked her. I don't know where Sue lives, not far away, but I'm not sure where. I haven't seen her for weeks. How old was she, Rita? Bennet joined in the conversation. About 17 or 18, Sergeant, I reckon. What else do you know about her? Johnson wanted any detail that might help them to find her. Not much. I'm really trying to think. Oh, yeah, her dad. He works for London Transport. I remember her saying that. He's a strong union man. Is there any news about Theo's funeral yet? Bennet informed Rita that the body had not been released for burial yet. She said that she thought it would be at the she thought it would be at the Greek Orthodox Church, and Bennet promised that when he had any details she'd be informed. The solicitor would be making the arrangements, and he had promised to let us know at the yard. Some of us want to go and pay our last respects. Bennet found his own throat tightening as he thought about the man who had saved his life. Rita's obvious grief was affecting him in a way that was unusual. Well, they let his brother out of prison to go. Poor man never had anyone else. Rita had met his brother in a cafe a time or two between his arrests. Probably. We're recommending it, but it's not the police who decide. Bennet thought about the sadness of a funeral. There's only one relation, and he has to be let out of prison on compassionate leave to be able to attend. You know, I have nightmares every night about what happened. He is going to be locked up for a long time, ain't he? Rita looked really anxious. Yes, Rita. Are you worrying? It was Johnson's turn to be impressed by the detective's kind tone. Are you worrying he might want to harm you? Silly, isn't it? But yes, I am. She laughed nervously. Mind you, that wouldn't stop me from helping him to get locked up. You're very brave, Rita. The policewoman emphasised her words. If everyone was like you, a lot of violent people would be locked up. The streets would be safer. Well, dear, Theo was brave. He saved this young man and probably me and who knows who else. That makes me feel much braver than I usually am. Poor Theo gunned down like that. Bennet looked at the policewoman and then at Rita. Can I tell you something that might help you grieve, Rita? But it will not be common knowledge until we release it to the press. The detective took a deep breath and then said in almost a whisper, Poor Theo had cancer. He didn't think he would live for long. He would have died soon without all of this. Bennet widened his arms. You mean the poor devil would have died soon anyway? Yes, Rita. In a funny kind of way, I found it a bit easier knowing that. I'll have to think about that. Maybe it will help. I've been so upset, I cry a lot. Rita looked at the young policewoman and saw a tear running down her face. Did you know Theo, love? No, Rita, it's just the way other people's sadness affects you sometimes. Have you seen the doctor, Rita? Bennet wanted to get her help. Yeah, he offered me sleeping tablets. I don't want them things. He's sending me for counselling. Theo never said about the cancer, I mean. Not even his brother knew, Rita. Bennet was glad that he knew that detail. When the two police officers were back in the car, Constable Johnson of Ardham apologised for getting upset. "I know we should stay detached, Sergeant. I'm really sorry." "No, don't be sorry. Never let this job take your heart," Inspector Hutchins told me once. "It helped her that you were upset. It's people like her that make this job worthwhile. Ordinary people who are decent citizens." Hutchins says good policing is about people, not paperwork and statistics, and I agree with him. The Ace Alliance got compassionate about animals, and look at the results. Hang on to your compassion, Constable Ardham, and you will do a better job for it. "Thank you, Sarge." The girl's smile lit up the street. "When we get back to the station, maybe you could check out if there is a William Parry working for London Transport who lives anywhere near Clapham." It was fairly easy for her to track down and find Bill Parry, and a quick telephone call and assurance that Sue was in no kind of trouble soon had Mr. Parry agreeing that the police could come and see him in the next day. As Hutchins and Bennet sat in the comfort of the Parry home, they found no resistance to their inquiry for Sue's new address. Bill assured them that if it was anything to do with Theo, Sue would want to know about it, as she was very upset about his death. "Is it anything to do with this wildlife crime thing, Inspector?" Deborah Parry realised as she finished the question that she'd spoken out of place, and the look her husband gave her made even Bennet nervous. "Oh, so you're Sue. She's interested in wildlife, is she, Mrs. Parry?" Hutchins peered at her inquiringly, removing his spectacles. "Listen, Inspector, if you have her address and you have something for her from Theo, well, that's it, isn't it?" Sue's father steered the conversation away from the investigation that he and his wife now realised their daughter had been much involved in. "Tell me, how are the policemen that were shot?" "Well, that's one of them there." Hutchins pointed at his sergeant. "Looks pretty good, doesn't he?" "Theo saved my life, Mr. Parry." Bennet wanted the world to know about that. Wanted them to know about the bravery of the Greek murder victim. Inspector Hutchins was not going without trying again. He pointed to the copy of The Guardian on the arm of the sofa. "The papers are full of all this stuff about the Ace Alliance, Mr. Parry. They claim there are 4 individuals, one posh guy, a young lady from Northern Ireland, a young man from the west of England, and a teenage girl. I don't know where they get it from." Bill Parry nodded his head. "Speculation is the junk food in newspapers, Inspector. As a cop, you must know that already." "I do, sir. Oh, I do. But I also know that the Ace Alliance has dealt a terrific blow to the illegal wildlife trade, and that there have been arrests from Norway to the Falklands and from San Francisco to Hong Kong." "Yes, David Brentland MP was praising them in the House of Commons yesterday, according to my paper. He knows what he's talking about." Bill couldn't resist bringing his favourite MP into the conversation. "Truth is, your daughter worked for Stanhurst once. We think she's part of the Ace Alliance." Bennet was surprised that the inspector put his cards on the table so frankly. "Do you now?" Bill Parry eyeballed the policeman. "So what do you want me to say, Inspector?" "Nothing, Mr. Parry. I just want to tell you how we feel. That's it. That is Bennet and I. I understood from the news reports, Bill was getting a bit irritated. That the Ace Alliance has particularly stated that they wish to remain anonymous." "Yeah, I understand that too. I've got not the slightest desire to inform the press who they are, or even to tell any of my superior officers. I don't want it to be written in any records of the police or the court." Bennet decided to join in. He addressed his remarks to Debbie Parry. "Truth is, we think these folk have done such a good job, and we'd like to thank them. When people do a service to the whole planet, it seems a shame not to be able to express our appreciation, doesn't it?" "We're very proud of her." Deborah couldn't help herself. "Sorry, Bill, I don't think—" "No, you're right, Deb, you don't think. We were especially asked to say nothing." "Oh, come on, Bill, this is the police, not the press." Inspector Hutchins studied the model of the Eiffel Tower on top of the television set. "We would really like to have a way to contact them. We might be glad of their help in the future." "If we'd known what she was at, we would have been frantic. She's brave. She brought that nice Ricky Claymore here to meet us." "Debbie, stop now." "Your husband is right, Mrs. Parry." Hutchins had more than he had hoped for. "Best if you keep it all to yourself, safer for you, Sue and the others. It is secure with us." He picked his glasses up off the coffee table and put them in place on his beaming face. "Sergeant Bennet, it's time we left. Thank you for your help, Mr. and Mrs. Parry. Bennet always remembered the manners put into him as a child. As they were leaving at the front door, Hutchins turned round and said, "Work for London Transport, don't you, sir?" "That's right." "In 1963, a tube driver did me a great favour. I knew Lenny Parker, a well-known con man, was on the tube on the Piccadilly line. He was trying to get round to King's Cross, but the driver jammed the doors at Russell Square until we found him. Never did get a chance to thank that driver personally. I'd hate to think it would be the same with the Ace Alliance." As Bennet weaved through the traffic, Hutchins said, "Well, Bennet, we know for sure who one of them is." "Yes, sir, Sue Parry. And we know the name of another, don't you think?" "Richard Claymore. Don't know who he is, though, do we?" "No, we don't, Bennet, but we soon will do." So, Inspector Hutchins is determined to find out who the Ace Alliance are. They wanted to remain anonymous. Story is not over yet. There's just a bit more to go. Next episode coming your way soon. Nice to share that with you. Thanks for sticking with this story. I hope that you are getting some pleasure out of it. All the very best to every one of you. Love and peace, my friends. Love and peace. Bye for now.